Well, welcome back to another in the Little Green Cheese video tutorial series. This time we're going to be making halloumi. And there's my finished product. And the ingredients you'll need are 8 litres of whole milk, non-homogenised, 2 mils or half a teaspoon of liquid rennet, which is diluted in 60 mils or a quarter cup of non-chlorinated water, some cheese salt and some dried mint leaves. And there is the pot set up, so a little bit of water in the bottom pot. And there's the 2 essential ingredients, milk, mint, salt. And there is the pot, and I've got it mostly filled with milk now. Just pouring in the last 2 litres or 1 quart. Sorry, that's 2 quarts. Okay, now I'm using non-homogenised milk, so that's cream line milk. Not sure what it's called anywhere else, but we just call it full cream milk. And it has been pasteurised and it has not been homogenised. Now, if you are using homogenised store-bought milk, you will need to add at least 2, maybe 3 mils of calcium chloride diluted in some non-chlorinated water. Now, I don't have to do that. So we're going to bring the temperature up to 32 degrees Celsius or 90 Fahrenheit. And then once we've made sure that's at the right temperature, the target temperature, we're going to be adding our rennet. Now there's no culture in this recipe because the final cheese doesn't need it. If you did add a mesophilic culture, the process, and you'll see how we go as we go along, it would actually kill the mesophilic culture anyway, so no need to add it at the start. So now we've added the rennet, we're going to stir that for about a minute. So we're going to let that now rest. So I've stirred that in. Going to rest for 40 minutes so that can set. Pull your thermometer out as well. And make sure it's covered. Okay, 40 minutes has elapsed. And we're going to check for a clean break now. You simply do that by making sure your hands are clean. Stick your pinky in. And when you pull it up, the milk splits. Just like that. Lovely. Okay, we're going to get the curd knife out now. I'm going to cut it into, it's about 1/2 inch cubes. And you can see that's about 1/2 inch or 12 mils, 12.5 mils. And that's a little bit fast. I think it's double speed. So we can get through this a little bit quicker. So you cut it one way, then the other. And we're just cutting it diagonally there. Oh, that's as cut as it's going to be. I shouldn't stir that too much. I need to let that rest for about 5 minutes. Just put the lid back on. And that will make the curds, the cubes, have a better body strength, whatever you want to call it. Okay, 5 minutes is up. And we're going to now stir the curds gently, and we're going to bring up the heat to 40 degrees Celsius, which is about 104 Fahrenheit. And we're going to do that over a 20-minute period. meat on there. So we bring that up, as I said, to 40 degrees Celsius. And as we go along, any really big cubes we're going to cut. Now there you can see a little bit of time has elapsed there, and the curds are a lot smaller. They've shrunk quite a bit. And because we're only stirring for 20 minutes, they're not going to shrink a lot. However, a lot of whey is expelled in that 20 minutes. So we're nearly finished that. Now we're going to let the curds now rest and sink to the bottom. So it makes it easier to pour off the whey into the colander that we're going to use in a minute. So we're going to let that rest for 10 minutes, pop the lid back on, and then we're going to move over to the sink area. Okay, we'll bring the pot over and we'll drain that. Now we have to retain the whey. So I've got a pot underneath this colander collecting all that whey. It's not going down the sink, because it's it's essential part of the process to use the whey a little bit later on. Okay, so we've retained all that whey into the pot, and there's the curd lump. Out there. So we're going to make this is a little simple press that I've designed here. It's just 2 chopping boards. So we move the curds onto the chopping board. This is just how they do it in Cyprus, where the cheeses come from. So we just fold the cheesecloth over, and we're trying to make a even sort of square type thing. It'll turn out a square once it's pressed. So we're just making sure that the surface is nice and flat, so there's not going to be lumps in the curd. Just fold all the excess over. So then we then put a board over the top, like thus, and this is how we're going to press it. So I've got two 2-litre milk cartons filled with water, so that's about 4 kilos on top that we're pressing. So we pressed for 10 minutes, and then we take the board off and we simply turn the curd mass over, and that just helps expel a little bit more whey. It's a bit like a pancake at the moment. Just be a little bit gentle. The curds have knitted together, so it's not that much of an issue. So pop the board back on again and put the 4 kilos of weight back on. Now you'd leave this for 20 minutes. So 20 minutes has elapsed, we pull that off, get rid of the top board, there we go, into the sink. And now we're going to remove the curd mass from the cheesecloth. Comes out like a big pancake. There we go, onto our clean wooden board. I'm just going to go and get the curd knife, and I'm cutting it about 10 centimetres wide. That's why I'm using my finger there. I measured the finger before, and it's about 10 centimetres. So that's about 4 inches. So do the same again. So I'm hoping to get 9 pieces of halloumi out of this. Move it along a little bit. It's right there, that's better. So the halloumi itself is about 5 centimetres, maybe 4 centimetres thick after all that pressing. So I'm just having a look. This is the first time I've made the halloumi, so yeah, that looks lovely. It's all pressed, it's not falling apart. I got a bit excited and had to inspect every single piece, but that's just the way it is. Here we are. Now, over on the stove, I've got this little rack. So I've just got a baking cooling rack, and I've got some sushi mats over the top. That's all been sanitised. And you'll see what I do with that in a second. So I've just put the pieces of halloumi there, nothing special. And what I'm doing, I'm heating the whey up now, and I'm bringing it up to 90 degrees Celsius. And at around about 90 degrees, you start to get all of the remaining curds start to float to the top of the whey, so you can just skim those off. And you'll see that in a second. Now I've actually, you can see in the other pot, I've skimmed off a lot of the curds that were floating there. It's a bit like ricotta. So I've got it up to 97 degrees Celsius, which is about 200 Fahrenheit, maybe 25. So we're going to plonk the halloumi in there now. And this is an essential part of the process. This is what makes the halloumi resistant to melting. So once we've got it in the boiling whey, or close to boiling whey, put all those in there. Now I haven't added anything to the whey at all. I've just saved it from when I drained the curds before, and just put the halloumi in there. Well, it's not really halloumi yet, it's just blocks of curd. So that's going to stay in the hot whey for 45 minutes, around 45 minutes. And you can put the lid on, turn the heat off. You don't want it boiling away. Now, it actually took about, between the first piece popped up at about 45 minutes. Then I had to keep on, I had to heat it a little bit more. And the other pieces started to float. So they all floated to the top. So I'm going to pull those out. In that little tray there, I've got cheese salt and mint flakes. So dried mint. And I'm just going to pop in each piece of halloumi and just roll it around there a little bit. And then I'm going to fold each piece of halloumi over in half. And this is apparently how you do it. Now, I know you can't see that very well, but there's some other pieces in a second that you'll be able to see perfectly well. I'll just move the salt out the way in a second. I'll get clever. So they're a bit rubbery now, the pieces of halloumi. There we go, we'll move the salt out of the way and the mint. And I'll put it where you can see it. There we go. So, a bit rubbery. You just fold it in half, press it down a little bit, and then it stays in place. You can just turn it over, it stays there better. Put the other bit up there too. And then I've sped it up so we can see that what I do for all the pieces. Now, I have seen exactly the same recipe, however you can use fresh mint and put that in the fold and then fold it over. That's quite acceptable, as long as the cheese is salted, of course. However, that method, the cheese is consumed straight away. So what we can do with this halloumi, once we've salted it and minted it, and put all the halves like that, we can actually vac pack it later on, each piece individually, and then we can use it at any given time. So I would say that it would last in the fridge at least 6 months, no problems at all. Anyway, but it won't last that long because we'll eat it all before that, for sure. So these are all fairly the same sort of shape. Hasn't made it any too unusual here. All about 10 by 10 square centimetres, and once they're folded over, they're a bit thicker, which is good. And I'll slow that down so we can see the last piece. Fish that out. I've just got enough salt and mint left. So do the last piece there. Two hands for beginners, I think, Gav. There we go. There we go. And none left. No, there are only 9 pieces. There we go, and we'll put that aside. So we'll just put a little bit of extra salt and the mint flakes, just the remaining stuff, over the top of the halloumi. Just make sure it's well salted. That'll stay and that'll keep for longer. And once I've vacuum packed that, it'll make a brine and that'll keep really well. And the salt will go all the way through the cheese. Don't want it too salty. And we can add a little bit more mint, some more mint flakes as well. No harm in that. Like a good minty cheese, especially halloumi. That's how it's supposed to be done. So just make sure that mint is all over there. And remember that I did put this on a rack. This is on a baking rack with the sushi mats on top. So this is draining away all the time. There we go, perfect. And that's a finished halloumi. So I'm just going to let that rest for about an hour. There it is, there's a close-up shot there. And then I cut some pieces up and put them in the frying pan. And this is how you're supposed to eat it. And oh, lovely golden brown there. And it absolutely tasted delicious. There was enough saltiness, and you could certainly taste the mintiness as well. So there's halloumi. You can keep that in brine, or you can vacuum pack that now for storage. Thanks for watching, and see you later.